All right. Hello to everyone, to our wonderful speakers today and all the participants of this webinar. My name is Sarri Borsalo-Tiitinen. I'm the Managing Director of Global Point, and we are partnering with the University of Lapland and the University of Applied Sciences of Tampere in this EU-funded project of KUVATA with the subtitle Visual Artists Expanded Work Fields. And KUVATA-hanke or KUVATA project was kicked off last August. With this webinar series that has covered different topics in this ever-changing environment of visual artists. And we have talked about entrepreneurship strategies, networking, the significance of digitalization and social media, and also the equality issues and sustainability in visual arts. And today we're focusing on how digital art can be effectively curated and presented in virtual spaces. We have 3 speakers in this webinar, and we start out with Annet Dekker, who is curator and researcher and an associate professor, archival information studies and cultural analysis at the University of Amsterdam, and also visiting professor and co-director of the Centre for the Study of the Networked Image at London South Bank University. Welcome. Annet Dekker has published numerous essays and edited several volumes, among others, Documentation as Art, a co-edited publication with Gabriella Giannacci, and Curating Digital Art, and from presenting and collecting digital art to networking co-curating. And its monograph, Collecting and Conserving Net Art, is a seminal work in the field of digital art conservation. And next we will hear Anna Laamanen from the Finnish National Gallery. And Anna specializes in creating immersive, interactive experiences that blend art and technology. And her work includes producing virtual exhibitions, video essays, and gamified art projects. And last but not least, we have Ville Laaksonen, a versatile cultural professional with nearly 2 decades of experience across the arts, culture, and beyond. His career spans roles as curator, artist, critic, educator, and exhibition organizer with a strong passion for organizational development. His work extends into edtech, growth marketing, and brand development in the sports industry, broadening perspectives on future possibilities for cultural ecosystems. Laaksonen holds 2 master's degrees from Aalto University and the University of the Arts, Helsinki. And we have approximately 20-minute presentations with a Q&A at the end of each presentation. However, our second speaker has to leave right after, so we can also have questions in the end, but if you have any specific questions to our second speaker, you can present them directly after the presentation, as you may also after each one, but we are saving some time in the end for any general comments or questions also for the 2 remaining speakers. But with no other words, I'm opening the field to Annet Dekker, so please welcome, and you can share your slides. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much for the invitation, and I'm really pleased to share my research with you. It's an ongoing research in a way. Let me just try and fix this before anything else. So, okay, here we go. Oh, damn it, it was not at the beginning anymore. But here we go. So, as I said, it's an ongoing research in how to curate online exhibitions, and that's what I'm particularly going to be focusing on. And to give you a bit of background, indeed, I've been doing digital art curation for a very long time, for over 2 decades. And I've always been interested in those type of artworks that are somehow performative, that change, then allow the visitor or the user to explore certain themes, narratives, or thoughts, guided by some markers, links, objects, or directives. So in 2021, in the midst of the global pandemic that forced many people to work online, I published a series of interviews of the last 10 years with curators, artists, and designers on curating digital art. And yeah, in a way, you could say that like this was a really good marketing strategy, right? To publish this book about a phenomenon that was unfolding at the time. However, though, my earliest interviews took place 10 years before this sort of great migration to the World Wide Web. And they were part of a prelude of this conference I organized, Collecting and Presenting Born Digital Art, with Baltan Laboratories and the Van Abbe Museum, both in Eindhoven in the Netherlands. And we wanted to bring attention to the potential of exhibiting digital art that at that time wasn't really an issue in most of the contemporary art museums. However, though, fast forward 10 years and digital art nowadays has become much more visible and was also much more included in all kinds of group exhibitions or dedicated digital art presentations. Also, its presence in the commercial art world has definitely been growing.
Pardon me, Annet, sorry to interrupt. We cannot see your slides. So maybe we spend a minute, on that. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. I'll try and see how that is not, why that is not happening. Because we tested it just now and it did work.
We did, and it was working fine.
Yeah, you can always say that. It's like going back in the share, allow.
Sorry, I was just fine listening, so I didn't realize it right away.
No problem. Still not sharing, is it? Why is it not going now? Share this screen. Go. Yeah.
Take your time.
There we go. I think this will work. Do you see it now?
Yes, we do. Thank you. If you can still make it a little bit bigger, and we're doing fine. Thank you very much.
So, I mean, the first slides weren't that interesting anyway, so I'll skip just ahead indeed to where I'm at now. So this was indeed the Collecting and Presenting Born Digital Art, the conference I was just mentioning. And so I want to focus today, though, on curating online and basically on two topics that I'm quite interested in this online space. And hence, I want to focus on the notion of space and how it's used, and also on the notion of time and how that's played out in these online exhibitions. So, although indeed, as I mentioned as well, and particularly around the pandemic, online exhibitions have been really proliferating. But most of them, as you can see examples here, in a way, they really focus a sort of skeuomorphic model of the gallery space. And I was really wondering, why is it indeed that this becomes such a prevalent model? And I thought perhaps this is also due to the invisibility, in a way, of the work that many online curators had already done. Going back in web time, in a way, indeed means digging through fragments of websites that once were, and stumbling upon a lot of 404 messages from an inaccessible past, or static documentation of exhibitions that should be interactive. So in a way, it's quite hard, in a way, to build on a past that's really no longer retrievable. So when trying to outline a sort of comprehensive historical trajectory of curating online, there are indeed many challenges to overcome. There is a lack of archival projects that are dedicated actually to web-based exhibitions. There's also the commercialization of the web that is making it very difficult to see the boundary between what is art, what is not art, or what is an exhibition and what is not an exhibition. And in that sense, also the saturation or the density in a way of information on the web makes it hard to find these websites. And so similarly, many online exhibitions also use these sort of non-standard interfaces or aesthetics that many people might find hard to navigate and access. So there's all these challenges to take into account, but it's also the ones that I'm really interested in, is that deal indeed with these notions of navigation, aesthetics, and the non-standard interfaces. So, as I said, the book that I was doing, the Curating Digital Art, we also wanted to include sort of historiography in a way of online exhibitions, particularly. So this is something that I did together with the help of the curators Maria Laura Gindini and Gaia Tadona. And we made a historical timeline, indeed, of these websites and these online exhibitions. We called it a broken timeline, and for many reasons. And first of all, as I just mentioned as well, it was broken because a lot of the things that were once there weren't there anymore. They don't function anymore properly as they should be, or they were only meant to be visible for a certain amount of time. And they might not have been maintained or updated after that. And also due to the technical obsolescence, the endurance of online content often concedes to a survival of the fittest in a way. So broken also, we wanted to refer to the role of the curator or curating as a practice, which we believe has become quite fragmented. The complex relation between human behavior and machine processes is deeply embedded with this continuously evolving techno-social environment and ecosystem. And it's not always clear indeed who or what propels a project, thus also affecting the function, the tasks, and the values of curating. So also in an attempt to show these interconnections between social behaviors and technical developments, next to these line of online exhibitions, we also made a sort of technical, social technical timeline in which we signal the most relevant contributions of technology and social happenings online on the web. So people could also see, like, yeah, are there any correlations between what we see in these exhibitions and the technology that's been used? Now, thirdly, in a way, the broken timeline as a title also is a response to and a reflection on the gaps between different curatorial discourses, primarily between digital art curating and contemporary art curating. I won't go into detail about that now. But so to stick with the last thing of the brokenness in a way is that you're not always in control of what you're doing online. Rather than being controversial or trying to break with traditional curation, online curating requires a new approach, we thought, which really factors in the outcome that it cannot be controlled. Particularly if you focus on interfaces that are existing, such as even simple, social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. So although the publisher's websites that you can see here worked really well, we had hoped for a more dynamic website, which due to the particular platform that the publisher used wasn't possible. However, shortly after the launch, Dutch artist Constant Dullard approached us with the question if we would be interested in doing something with his platform, Distant Gallery. We were very interested in exploring alternative timelines that would better reflect what we would call the broken timeline. So we quickly accepted this, and this is the outcome, a screenshot of it. So for this particular exhibition, we chose to focus on exhibitions in which curatorial participation was very important, either through reappropriating or subverting existing computer tools. Another aspect that we wanted to emphasize was the evolvement of exhibitions over time. So in these examples, curators, artists, and other users accept the loss of control. And perhaps you could also say they follow the sort of variable temporality of the web. Now, other types of exhibitions give more control to the users, either by providing zip downloads that you could use your desktop as an exhibition space, or reuse existing content. I will come back to some of these, but for now I want to highlight, as I mentioned before, the notion of space. And so to give an example of one of these exhibitions that I found quite interesting is surprisingly this Rather Works, an exhibition done by Manuel Rosner, curated by Anneke Meyer and Jon Koenig of Koenig Gallery in Berlin. So they asked Manuel Rosner, an artist, to present his work in this online way. He developed a sort of digital translation of the gallery space, the St. Agnes Church in Berlin, and he transformed it into a space or into a sort of gaming environment in which his digitized sculptures that you can see portraits of here, sort of like amorphous sculptures and paintings that were actually based on digital drawings that he had made, and then did them in a physical and then digitized them again and put them now in this space. So you be this little avatar that you can see in one of these screenshots as well, this little white blob in a way. And there you could move around the space. You could also, you know, jump through these artworks. You could even pass through the walls of the church in a way. So it's really this sort of animated game space that you would find yourself in and through in a way. So these are these sort of like, yeah, quite well known, I suppose, virtual environments in which you can do all kinds of things that you would normally not be able to do in the space, even though the space is quite a good replica of the physical space. But they became a very virtual game-like environment in which you could see and play indeed also with these artworks. Perhaps on the other side of this specter of technological development, in a way, moving from the very high-tech and exhibition VR spaces to something that is much more sort of grounded in the text-based environment that we could also view in the early days of the web. This is the exhibition Copy-Paste Waste by Teresa and Katrina. Also a curatorial duo based in Berlin. And while using very intricate navigation, the focus is very much on the precarious and also unsustainable nature of many of these high-tech, high-end exhibitions that, that also was done in these sort of VR kind of worlds and game worlds that you just mentioned now. So this is much more sort of basic game, or not so much a game even, but online exhibition indeed, which you move through the text in a way to see the different types of works that are then linked to. And somewhere in the middle is these type of exhibitions by New Scenario. Again, a German artist here at this time. I don't know why, but I've got all these German-focused exhibitions here at the moment. And they bring, in a way, a very different tactic around. What they do is they create a physical exhibition and they bring it into a digital space by documenting the space and translating that into a website. And what they are particularly interested in, though, is coming up with different exhibition formats rather than looking at the white cube in a gallery space or a museum space. They look for something completely different. As you can see here, it's the backside of a limousine, or also they did a painting exhibition in this Jurassic Park, an amusement park outside in the Ruhr area in Germany. So rather than replicating in a way these white cube galleries, they really wanted to look for alternative spaces. And particularly liking also of inhospitable places. And as they say, New Scenario is a dynamic platform, conceptual, time-based and performative exhibition formats. It happens outside the realm of the white cube and is meant to function as an extension to create new contextual meaning. Well, if we talk about inhospitable places, I guess here their project Body Halls exemplifies it perhaps best, where you can really see miniature artworks placed in all the sort of openings of the human body. I won't go too much into their exhibitions nor the artworks that they presented, but just give you an idea of what it means to make these sort of documented exhibitions and put them back online. Another example here is their exhibition Chernobyl Papers, which is presented into the Chernobyl exclusion zone. And also where is a space that you can't really visit, you can't really go to. So in an attempt to both address these particular spaces and contextualize them within the exhibition, they also mimic them in a way, translate them into an online format. So the characteristics in a way of the scroll, the social media feed, the reel or the story and that you can find on Instagram is all the kind of tools that they use also in these online exhibitions. And they could be seen as a way, in a sense of this post-digital media, and thereby turning in a way the ruin, the distortion and the devastation into events and sensations. Now, this archival collection of the personal and sometimes of the poetic is convolutedly intertwined in the database as a digital repository. And so in the case of Chernobyl, for instance, the contaminated paper drawings remain in the space of the zone, while the digital twins get contaminated into a different space. So perhaps this sort of absurdist way of presenting art evokes at the same time a sense of disgust, perhaps horror, beauty, surprise, and joy. And perhaps you could see it as a sort of merely attention-seeking or the extreme sports of curating. However, though, by interweaving also narrative text on social political issues of gender, privacy, or surveillance and power, the focus of New Scenario is much more on the wider context of how images, art, and politics are discussed in the art world. And thereby they challenge the conventions and traditions by creating their own rules in new spaces and exploring existing spaces with the restrictions and boundaries of play and subversion. So while their mise en scène in a way takes place in physical space, which is documented and shown online, either in the form of a video, a sound recording, or even a VR experience, for them, the documentation is indeed just as real as the physical experience. As they say here, if the documented scene and the location in which the exhibition takes place are strong enough, and if the artworks and their surroundings can interact and communicate with each other, they are able to transcend the documentation and turn it into an experience that's able to replace a spatial experience. So for them, it's really about emphasizing the importance of context while critiquing the virtual white cube that has become the sort of recent standard in physical space, but it's merely copied in a way in an online space as well. You could also say, though, well, they aim really to expand the forms of documentation in a world where institutions and artwork serve as a backdrop for redundant selfies and documentation becomes social capital in a way. The subversive quality of documentation may become even ineffective and even become obsolete in that sense. So another position taken by curators is to exploit the online space itself. And by moving away from the binary between physical and online curating, they try to play much more with the tools that already exist within online space and modify those into other purposes. So an interesting example here is the Exchange exhibition by Maria Laura Gindini that I mentioned before, and Rebecca Motgrak. Now, I won't go again into detail into this project, which is quite elaborate, but it's an exhibition that was put on by different curators that were selected by Maria Laura and Rebecca, and they would present the works on eBay and trying to sell their exhibitions in that sense. So while the examples of New Scenario and Annika and Teresa, in a way, they're all still very much in control of the space they are creating. In the case of Exchange and using a commercial platform such as eBay, you are not so much in control anymore, and you also start to play within the confines of that commercial platform. And here, you know, different instructions may happen concurrently. Interactions between various paths can potentially branch out in different and at times very unknown or ambiguous directions. So here, curating becomes intricately intertwined and dependent also on the complex network of other humans, of code and digital elements that impact the conventional role of the curator at the same time. So rather than seeing this as a problem, by emphasizing this tension, they provide an opportunity also to explore more thoroughly, in a way, the social technical impact on digital curatorial process and curating in particularly. So to move to the other theme that I wanted to explore, indeed, online time. Now this is a screenshot of an interview, indeed, that was taking place between Charles Perkowski and Constant Dullard around the surf clubs in 2003, in which they mentioned, indeed, that most of the online artwork that was made was, as they say, ideally meant to be seen by someone in their bedroom at 2 a.m. with a million browser tabs open. Many have indeed also proposed the notion of the detemporality of internet time, where the acceleration of information developed a temporal compression in which time as a process disappeared. And such observations tend to see the web as fluid and discontinuous, or a nice uninterrupted flow of data and exchanges. However, though, in most experiences, the web is much more volatile. It's less like a steady stream and more like a wild river that moves at different speeds, including downtimes, blockages, missing parts, relays, and dead ends. In that sense, rather than the detemporality, it's more temporal discontinuity or a broken time. And the recent use of algorithms, in a way, can add another layer or level to this temporality of the web that I think is interesting to explore. And that has been done, for instance, in these two projects as well. The project, The Next Biennial, should be curated by a machine, by a project by Ubermorgen, Leonardo Impet, and Joshua Krisa, commissioned as part of the Liverpool Biennial and also in collaboration with the Whitney Artport. Here, the artist used a group of machine learning processes on different data sets from both the biennial and the Whitney to generate endless combination of possible biennials. And something similar happened indeed with the 10th Bucharest Biennial that was curated by this AI Jarvis. This time the machine learning was trained on the material that is taught at the sort of renowned masters of curating and contemporary art history in universities. In both these cases, what is interesting indeed that shows that how machine learning software may reveal these sort of hidden layers that were previously obscured or present interesting connections and patterns. And they may also instigate linguistic interventions. In the end, the outcomes very much mirror, in a way, this institutional backbone of the database which they are trained on, in which the visitor in the end becomes merely an observer, clicking around playfully, but trying to decipher unintelligible text in a way. So in a sense, these projects are reiterating and reinforcing more than anything else the role of the museum as a gatekeeper, albeit in a much more light-hearted way. Another example that tries to play in this notion is the exhibition Recombinance by Maja Edelstein Gomez, which is actually an experiment by artist Martina Nedam, curator Emmanuel Gues, and programmer Zombectro. Here, the visitor behavior influences the artworks and their presentation. So the trio created the character of Magia Ilsen Gomez as a contemporary independent global curator from Argentina that initiated this exhibition in the form of an open call for artworks, a database, and an exhibition outcome. Every time when someone enters this exhibition now, though, the system triggers a chain of events which every user, or better, every piece of data becomes a recombinant. It uses a form of data splicing to generate a page, and each interaction then recombines the already existing data sets, thereby also challenging the notion in a way of the art as object. So by changing the format and chain of events in the website, the recombinance was about modifying and reconfiguring access, as well as about self-replicating space and time, rather than forging a continuous space and time notion. So I'd like to see, indeed, in my ongoing research, as I mentioned also, how this is perhaps similar to how Adrian Mackenzie describes the foldings of different relations that happen within machine time, by listing the various types of machine time, such as seek time, runtime, read time, access time, real time, time division, etc. Mackenzie here starts to emphasize the complexity of time, and particularly computational time, and shows how, in his analysis of a specific algorithm, how the incorporation of past states into each message begins to break down the punctual, discrete nature of repetition. A flow of information begins to look more like a phenomenological now, composed of retentions and protensions. So in other words, as he explains in more detail, it's the complex mix of past memories and future predictions that makes the present, in a way, really hard to pin down. This is something I believe can also be seen in the recombinants, where the different interactions and their regenerated new versions form from the old versions from new versions at that moment, but can change at each time it's accessed again. What comes out of this is a sort of networked machine time as a complex assemblage in which computer-based times and the traces of human intervention become entangled. It's a merge that generates potentially unlimited experiences of temporality without a clear trajectory, either in the past or towards the future. It's an enduring presence in a way. So to conclude, in the broken timeline, we wanted to focus on exhibitions in which curatorial participation was important, as well as reappropriation or subversion of existing platforms, tools, and conventions. Another aspect that we wanted to emphasize was the evolvement of exhibitions over time, which may lead to alternative forms of temporality by playing with the notion of machine time or internet time. It wasn't about negating or cancelling time or space for that matter, but rather to propose an alternative set of and different ways of thinking about time and curating online. In these examples, we noticed how curators, artists, and often users accept the loss of control and acknowledge that time and space can no longer be seen as temporarily or geographically divided. So focusing on and playing with social technical specifications of the web, online exhibitions constitute a specific space and time context in which these issues of ownership, authorship, trust, networking, and social technicalities of the web are thriving. They are discussed and also reappropriated in different ways. So I hope to give you a few examples with this, and I'm looking forward to hearing your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Many questions arise, and to me on the control on both sides and also on the gatekeeping. But I propose that we save the questions towards the end, because if I understand, you are able to stay with us until the end. Yes. And we'll now give the floor or the screen to Anna, who then has to leave a little bit earlier. So Anna Laamanen from the National Gallery, and I just have to say this anecdote that I got to know Anna. Anna was teaching me how to play video games in an event in Taitentalo in Finland earlier last year, I think so. But that's how I get acquainted with the digital potential of art and in different forms. But yes, please, Anna, go ahead.
Hey, hey all, thank you for inviting me, first of all, and then I would like to say thank you for Annet, because that was really, really interesting, and this is really tough act to follow with my presentation. There are a lot of similar ideas that I have been thinking, but I have more practical approach in my presentation. At Finnish National Gallery, we have been doing a lot of different kind of digital projects for a couple years now, and today I will share with you few of the insights, like what we've learned, and especially in the user experience in virtual exhibitions. First, just a little bit about myself. I'm a digital producer at Finnish National Gallery, and sorry, just lost my notes for a second. Tough to present myself. I work as a digital producer at Finnish National Gallery, and even though my background is in art history, I did my first master's degree in art history, but then I have somehow managed to work more and more on accessibility on digital platforms with art, like how to make art more accessible in digital platforms. And I produced especially virtual art exhibitions, gamified art projects, videos, and so on content. Really short introduction of Finnish National Gallery, because I don't know if everybody knows who we are. We are actually the National Museum of Fine Arts in Finland, and our roots go back to 1846, when Finnish Art Association was founded in Helsinki. You probably know our museums, but many people don't connect the museums into Finnish National Gallery. But we have 3 museums in Helsinki. We also maintain state-owned art collection in Finland. The collection is divided in 2. There's the Finnish National Gallery collection, and then State Art Deposit collection that is mainly used in public spaces, government-owned spaces. It contains over 50,000 works of art, and most of the art is actually physical objects. So when talking about digital exhibitions and virtual art exhibitions, in this context, I'm talking about digitized art, not digital art, mostly. There are a few other examples. During the 2022, we started this Digital Finnish National Gallery program. We, of course, had done a lot of digital projects beforehand, but this was our way to sort of level up in the digital game and really look broader access and innovative presentation formats for the digital strategy. And we have been experimenting with various technologies and platforms over the few years. But why? Why do we have to do this kind of digital exhibitions? Well, 70% of our museum visitors come from Helsinki metropolitan area, but we are a national operator, so we should be national widespread and give the access to our over 50,000 art pieces to more than just the people who can visit us in Helsinki. And actually our museums we can present only about 2% of our collection in our museums at once. So 98% of our collection are most of the time are stored. So how to give access? We have done the open, you can browse our collection online. That is done already, and we have done a lot of digital openings in that area, but what is the user experience, how to give the curated online experiences for people? Because also when you are browsing the collection, it might not be that interesting for most of the people. We have been doing a lot of piloting in the past years. We started with a lot of 360 experiences. So the Atheneum Art Museum's old collection exhibition, Stories of Finnish Art, and Paul and Fanny Sineprakov's House Museum. We did 360 filming of those, and we also tried doing some kind of guided tours on digital platforms on those. We have been experimenting on gamified projects, like we did Art Heist at Fortnite. We have been joining forces with Yle, National Broadcasting Company, with Independence Day Party at Roblox. That was actually really interesting because in 2 years there has been like 200,000 young people playing in the games in Roblox and trying to hunt down artworks from our collection. So that is really good reach with young audience. We have been doing video formats, so documentaries, video essays, streamed lectures, that sort of stuff. And then we have done some piloting also on blockchain base. We did created this alusta.art blockchain. It's sort of publishing platform for artists, and then we arranged competition, Combine 24, that was for generative art, and from that we created a Remix the Archive exhibition last autumn in Vallila, and that is actually now presented in New York, so that's kind of cool. But after this long piloting phase, we are now trying to kind of focus on the concepts like for more long-term activities. And at the heart of all the projects that we have been doing has been the goal of finding ways to create digital experiences with visual art. So that kind of focuses us on user experience. I will showcase one of our projects, especially that's called The World of Hugo Simberg. Main reason why I'm picking this one as a more showcase project. This is VR exhibition, and I have been working a lot on the user experience on this. I actually just finished my second master's thesis about user experience in this. So there's a lot of the coming notions that I will say to you are coming based on this. Also for other benchmarking and other studies and other pilots, but like a lot of it is based on this project. But I will show you the video first and then tell you a little bit more about the project.
In the Garden of Death, the skeletal figures are tending to the plants arranged in neat rows.
So in this project that we started on 2023, we wanted to reinvent the virtual art exhibition or digital art exhibition in a way, because our experience was that in most cases, the experiences that try to replicate the physical art exhibition experience, like Annet in the beginning of her speech also kind of hinted, They might be a bit boring as an experience, and the data we had from that sort of art exhibitions show that people spend in that kind of exhibitions like 3 minutes approximately, and that is really short time to spend in an exhibition. You could, in a physical exhibition, spend that time in looking at one artwork. And in this case, people didn't really engage and commit to the content. So we wanted to figure out how to make the experience more engaging, like how to become more immersive. Of course, this was our first project doing this, so not everything went perfectly. And actually, to be honest, the concept of the exhibition isn't that different than basic art exhibitions, but we managed to create this immersive space where you can dive into the artworks, and all the spatial and animated and sound design supports your experience, giving you more on, it is more experience than just watching art. And then you can also focus on the art as well. We wanted to create emotional, immersive connection to the art, and the movement and the sound and the story, it helped creating that. And as I told, we did a lot of thorough testing for this and interviewed the testers. It was part of my thesis, and here are some of the biggest learnings, or something we managed to get from that. Users actually don't want just digital documentation. They want meaningful, intuitive, and immersive experiences. User interfaces should be clear and intuitive with minimal friction. This sounds like an obvious, but you should be surprised how easy it is to lose focus on this when you know your platform all the way through. Even when you are creating content in ready-made platform, you should remember that you are the expert, but not users. User is not. So when you are looking into creating, you can actually help also with the content creation. Even if the user interface is not in your power to change, you can help with creating the content to be fitting more to that interface. People also tend to commit easier to spending time when there is a strong narrative. We like stories. It doesn't have to be elaborate, but something that gives the audience possibility to relate, follow the ideas, and understand. With the Hugo Simberg case, we didn't really give a strict order where you should follow the artwork, and it was kind of, there were 4 spaces where were 5 artworks around you, and you could just pick whatever you wanted to look. And that kind of confused some of the users, because they wanted something that gives them sort of direction where to go and what to do. They wanted to move freely, but still they wanted some kind of hints or something that gathers together all the information they receive. So something more put together. Giving at least a little interactivity for the users can help them to get more engaged with the audience. In the world of Hugo Simberg, we had this one room, one thematic world, where we had a funny little animated fly that had a skull, because it was the Garden of Death by Hugo Simberg. It had a flying around, and most of the users tried to catch the fly with their control. Unfortunately, we hadn't planned that interaction, so nothing happened if it succeeded. But it showed us that people, even when there's slight hint that something might happen when you do something, they want to engage with the content, not just be passive watchers. And using more senses helps us immerse in the experience. The exhibition doesn't have to be VR to be immersive. Even movies, books can be really immersive experiences, but especially sound with the visual aid helps a lot when you are trying to fall into the mood and the atmosphere of the exhibition. Then few of the common pitfalls, what could happen when you when you plan. Oh, I lost my notes. Oh, here, sorry. I think the biggest pitfall we can make with digital exhibitions is that we are trying to copy the concept as it is from physical exhibitions. Digital should not just copy it, but it should leverage its own strengths and offer something unique. I think this sort of shift in the mindset is the key for the future development. Trying to find out what are the biggest strengths and what can be done in digital that cannot be done in physical world. Because in the physical art exhibition, there's a lot of, well, the artwork is authentic, so you can actually feel it's always different to know that it is authentic. The space is always, it's sort of, it's social event. Even when you are alone in the museum, it's also a social event. So there's a lot of things that are really hard to replicate online as an online encounters. So why to even try when you can actually try to figure out what works best in the digital form? So shifting from digitizing museums to designing digital native experiences, and of course, focus on accessibility and modularity and continuous user testing and iteration. And I'm repeating myself, but the lack of storytelling or some kind of thematic cohesion is really, well, it happens easily, but when you have those in order, it is easier for the audience. So now we are learning to build the digital first, not just translating the physical. And I want to stress out that it doesn't always have to be really flashy tech gimmicks that gives the feeling that it is really well done experience, because I think when you are start to create from the content first, you will actually get further, and the tech stuff comes later. So start with your content and not with the tech gimmicks that are easily funny for yourself, but they might not work as well for the others. So in all together, there are a few concept principles I'd like to highlight. Anyone developing digital art experiences. First of all, user doesn't know what you know and doesn't think like you think. Even when you design and storyline feels so obvious to you, it might not be that for the audience. In the best case, you should ask someone on your target audience to try it out, but in the minimal, show it to someone you trust. This is, I know, especially when you are artists and you really want to protect your content, and you want to finish it and to the last detail before you show it to anyone. But if you want the experience to translate to other people, it might help a lot if you just watch others to experience it, and you might learn something about it. Digital should be treated as its own experiences, not a copy. It's completely own. Engaging experience can be created even without high and expensive tech, but might need a bit more insightful creative work. I think the biggest issue is that we see some nice technical possibilities and we head straight to that, but we don't really think what are we doing there? And that's actually the number 4. This is something that I really want to point out. Before starting the exhibition, make it clear to you, why are you doing the digital exhibition? What is the purpose? And therefore, who is the audience? It is impossible to make an experience that works for absolutely everybody. are you doing a portfolio for the galleries? Are you trying to reach new audiences? The purpose will help you design better online art experiences and determine the target audience. But I was faster than I expected, so thank you. And do you have any questions?
Yeah, you really were fast. I had a timer here and you went under 20 minutes. But thank you very much, Anna. And please, yes, if you have any questions directly to Anna, please present them now. You can either raise your hand or write them to the chat. But I loved it how your two presentations really had a dialogue. You were like dealing with the practical side and giving us concrete examples, and whereas Annette was telling us the different what had been happening, like in the development of the curating side. But anyone, a direct question to Anna before she has to leave. Yes, Annette, please.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. This is so wonderful to hear. And I love how you are really, I mean, I can completely understand what you're doing. And I'm really happy to hear how you are proposing indeed to go about these sort of like online experiences. I think I can only agree with that kind of outcome. I was really curious indeed, because you mentioned indeed that you do a lot of user testings, audience testings in a way, right? To indeed come to these conclusions in a way. And I was wondering, and this is more for my own purpose in research as well. It's like, what other kind of like research have you done? What kind of analysis have you done in order to come to these kind of conclusions?
There's like you said, a lot of user testing, and sometimes a bit minimal, just a few testers doing and me watching, and sometimes more elaborate, like with the case of the World of Tampere, where we had 10 people doing testing the world, and then we had theme interviews with them afterwards about their experiences. Then there's also a lot of benchmarking in place. I've been doing a lot of seeing how others have been working, a lot of reading about the what is written in academic research about this. Then there's some data we have about our own piloting projects, and like we know how much people visit and how long they are staying in the experiences, and that gives some sort of like analyzing the data we get from the users in the place. But of course, there's a lot of, how to say, some are also my interpretations of the data and all the research. So it's not, yeah.
Thank you. Then there's Paula, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I really appreciate I was waiting a lot for this meeting because I love the technology and culture. And I mean, the job you're doing, I mean, it's really nice how to see how you can mix both of subjects. I really like. I have a lot of questions, but just I focus on some of them. So, and then there are three. So, on your research, which countries in Europe they have more knowledge about this kind of the projects like you do, or for the artists they do something online, and then how do you select the users for tasting this kind of programs? I mean, because you say something very important, that we must remember what is the main goal for our project and which are our clients. And in that way, is the project will be more successful when we have those subjects very clear. So that's why I'm curious just to know how you select those users to taste the platform. And I know I visited one of the museums and I see that there are some options that are very important. I mean, in cultural activities and museums and galleries that are inclusive. I mean, for those people cannot see or or just braille language or something like that. How you apply those tools for those the users? Thank you.
Thank you. First, about which European countries have the most experience in this. I couldn't say anything definitive. There's a lot of really good art tech projects in Netherlands. Rijksmuseum has done a lot of innovative work. In UK, the National Gallery has done a lot of interesting openings. In Austria, Belvedere museums have done interesting openings also in digital stage. So there are bits and that everywhere. I think this is showcasing our physical art collections in digital format is something like most of art museums are thinking at some level, especially after the pandemic. And yeah, I think these are just few examples of really good, interesting, and of course we in Finland have been doing some work in that area. The second question was about selecting the testers. It's not easy, especially because people have to be able to give their time, and it's not always easy to find people who are willing to do the testing. And it depends a lot on the project. For example, for the World of Hugo Simberg, the testing we actually announced in our Finnish National Gallery social media that we are looking for testers because we wanted them to be interested in art and be in our realm of world. And from there, we had few sort of selective questions that would take out the people that wouldn't suit for the target audience for that exhibition. Then, for example, for the gamified projects, we have been looking for people. We have a lot of gaming people in our midst, in the people who are working the project, so we can find their gaming friends to be testing our. So sometimes we are just like publicly announcing and looking for new people, and sometimes we just look from our own networks, like who would be the perfect person to test. But it depends a lot, and as I said, it doesn't have to be highly planned. User testing can be done if you have someone who hasn't worked the project. You should just show it. It's better than nothing. That's the basic idea of digital platforms and digital planning and user testing. And the third question was, now I completely forgot. What was your third question?
Now, very
How to manage
briefly,
to be more inclusive.
Yes.
Sorry, now you were talking on top of each other. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Just only to know how you make those digital presentations more inclusive for people they can.
Oh, the accessibility. Yeah. Of course, we are a public organization, so we have to obey the European Union's accessibility directive. So everything has to be accessible. All the platforms, all the websites we are creating and using have to be accessible. But then there's these cases where we use platforms that are not our own, for example, Fortnite and Roblox, and it is just not possible. So in those cases, we do what we can. That is why, for example, in the World of Hugo Simberg, we have the possibility for people to also read the audio guides, not just listen. So we are giving different kind of ways, and we were strict about having all the visual stuff being according to the accessibility directive, even though we know the VR experiences are not totally accessible, but we are, in the cases where we are doing our best, but then it's not always possible. But basic websites are always accessible in our case.
Thank you, Anna. An important question, so it was good to take the time. All right. Now, if you have any extra questions to Anna, please submit them to the chat, and then we'll forward those questions to you after this webinar. And thanks, Ville, for being very patient here. And now we give the last word to Ville. Thanks, Anna.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, hello everybody. So my name is Ville Laaksonen. I'm from the Art House Turku and working on a digital art house project for the Culture Center. I will share the screen here. Let's see if it works. And get on the bottom of this. So play. So I will present to you the whole concept of the year's work I have now done. I won't go into the past. I have also worked in similar kind of projects in the past as well. I have curated my first virtual exhibitions in 2015, but my original background is mostly in the forms of art and curating in visual art and international exhibitions and collaborations. So that kind of gives some perspective on how I've broached this concept of the digital art house. So without further ado, we have the Culture Center Art House Turku in Finland, and I was asked to do a digital extension to it, and not only a digital extension, but also a virtual extension, meaning something that is truly Web3 based initiative. And way I figured out it's like to do it is that basically approaching the whole concept of the culture center is that we are like a physical culture center. We are connected to other physical like centers, for example, through Trans-Europe halls and other networks. We're doing collaborations, but these ideas regarding the physical premises and physical collaborations are something that is, of course, they have extensions to digital side, but then again, they are mostly focused on creating something truly physical. When again, the digital art house is something that is focusing on basically creating different digital services and infrastructure, learning, like teaching people to use digital services, and basically working and operating on standard like web contents and sales paths and information and so on. And for this, I thought the one thing that we required to like kind of convert the culture center towards digital is that we needed to create a hub. So I created Culture Hub first, and then we started growing a community of people. So we have basically people who are interested of doing things in the digital environment, and where they are doing it is also in the virtual art house. So the virtual art house then again is something that is not just on the ordinary web. It's also there, but there is an like extension where basically the standard internet has more to it. So that means that the virtual art house is something more than the traditional internet content. And on the whole, like picture where we have started in May, we had first some VR in physical spaces. Then we had also like launch of the Culture Hub. We started doing the community building, and the community building was through open call. And then we had the first residency, which was a virtual residency in September 24. And the idea of that was to basically create the community and the rules of the community, how the community works, and where's the focus on it. So we started already about co-creating and co-working as the key idea of digital content creation and collaborations. And so then we did another open call, which was directly on the point of creating the next phase, which is something that we are currently doing for the virtual art house. So it's a production residency, you can see in the end. And at the same time, we're still on like the verge of publishing our virtual art house platform. which is something that we have been building since last November. In half a year, we have created the whole social VR platform. And then also we are exploring the future for the collaborations and expanding this whole thing. So in short, like from the beginning, like basic digital services, they mean like really simple things, creating sales paths. So for example, for the art house, we created a shop where different organizations and artists can provide services. We have the tickets sales for the movie theater, and we have these kind of sales paths basically, and customer databases. So that is still on the like normal side of things. The culture hub then again is something like already like outside of the physical premises, but it can include people that are from our own community, but it's an expansion to another kind of communities. And then we started growing this, and the idea, like I said, was done through the residency. I coined the idea, but we had virtual residency, which first initiated how we made Culture Hub something that was community based and community created in that sense. And the open call we did went live for a really big audience, and then we get people actually from all across the world. So we built a community in a half a years where we have people everywhere besides Antarctica. We have people from Australia, India, China, South Africa, South America, and Canada, States, in Europe, and in Finland. And they are all part of the same community. And so what we do with these people is the next thing. So we start doing the community building as something that every time we have a residency, it has a purpose. And the purpose is to like find different professionals who are interested of collaborating, finding partnerships, and also like helping each others. So the whole concept of the idea is that we are trying to find the right people to collaborate with each other and learn from each other as well. And so where is it going is that we go back to the physical premises, our cultural center. What do we do with as a cultural center is basically that we have the community, we have exhibitions, we have working, and we have performative arts. So we're not speaking about just one part of the culture. We're speaking at the same time all forms of culture. It's literature, it's music, it's performative arts, and it's visual arts and digital arts. So every part of these and the angles that people are, everybody is actually on the same agenda. They need to like adapt to the situation where digital mediums can extend their work in global ways. And so the same idea that we have in the physical world can be extended to a virtual world. And the virtual world we have built is basically a culture center in the VR and in social VR. And here is the webpage we launched just a week ago. So you can see a little bit about this. So the idea is that you're enabled to see the production we're currently going. You get the basic ideas of what we're doing. You can see the list of artists. Each of the artists can be presented here. And so we have created in less than a year a huge community and global event that is something that these people can experience. And now you might be wondering, where do they have it and how do they have it? So the question is that the answer is that the platform Virtual Art House is a social VR platform. That means that we have built this. So yeah, the platform is made in collaboration with Proverse, and what we have been trying to do is to create something new and internationally unique. There is, of course, other social VR platforms. There is some places where you can create your own content and so on. But what we have been trying to achieve here is to make different forms of art and culture to be something that can be experienced from the user end. And so, what is the platform you don't see yet is something that will be published in 1.5 weeks. 1st of June, the platform will go live. And that means that on the website, we go to the Virtual Art House platform. So here's the website, and I can guide you through it. So if you own your own VR headset, you can go there in VR. And if you have a computer, you can go there with a computer. And where you'll be heading is the world in social VR where there's other people with you. You can communicate with them. You can share what you are doing there with other people globally. And so we have like basically accessibility from anywhere in the world. We have a community that's anywhere in the world that can meet here. And what they do in the virtual art house, they can do different events and they can do seminars, whatever kind of live events, just as in real life. They can do concerts, and we have different spaces here dedicated for that purpose. So here's a short view of what's the idea. It's about the virtual art house first, the culture hub, and the extra live is the event we have now. We are starting to publish also in June 1st, and that includes these artists. 5 curators from across the world have collaborated through a residency together. So the whole thing is community driven by Culture Hub. Everything is created through the community that we build up. And also, when you think of it, we have like the audiences are basically through these 50 different artists we have and the curators, we have the community driving this to the audiences that they have and they want to share it to. So, of course, that is the goal that we want to have, is that we have certain audience, we have the people and their audiences, and enabling the platform is something that will create something differently. And so we have different productions from digital mediums to music, animated things, performative pieces. We have also like scientific works, some historical works as well, augmented reality. We have like many different topics, performative pieces, audio pieces. So it's all forms of culture. And I think the idea is that when we approach the future of art and culture, how it's done in VR and in the future forms, the borders between different forms of culture will start to narrow down. Of course, there will be these different elements, but in digital ways, they will be kind of mixed up. And that's really interesting to me to see. And then we have the creator's words here. You can read more about it. And like I said, extra live events online. So we have certain times when there is openings or like talks, different live events going on during like the whole half years. We have the program up. And then on the long term, we have also a roadmap for the future where the whole platform is something that can be utilized really fast. I was just yesterday talking here in Amsterdam for the art week. I'm here with some created projects, and like the collaborations could be just as easy that someone has a project that can be important to share, and but they would need a virtual platform. And it could be done basically from our end as easy that someone provides the materials and we basically press play and put on the social medias. So I think this kind of really agile forms of collaboration is something that needed. It's like mandatory. The museum sectors can't do it because everything in museums need to be done really fast. But with this kind of community-driven initiatives, it is truly about just creating the space and trusting the people to do something that they can do and in really fast time. So it's like the collaborations is something that is truly like making something possible. The scale is not an issue. We can create use any of the space that we have, but creating new spaces is not that complicated. It's not that expensive either. And this platform is also enabling people to do customized spaces. So let's say that in our space you can't fly, but we would like to have a room where you can fly. Let's make that room. We can have it, and that's because we have thought this also through a little bit like gamification is part of it, the social part of it, and so it's really the scale is not an issue, and that means that even grand partnerships like creating the whole similar metaverse environments, since we have built up the basics of it and the rules, there's no limit how big things we could collaborate with. Even like full-scale museums could have the similar spaces. So the cloning possibilities of the whole thing is really big. And then we have, of course, the user-created content. For the user-created content, we will be enabling this tower, infinite culture tower, like you call it, the skyscraper that is only virtual but not physical. Basically, it's made of rooms that we can clone infinitely. And so everybody from our community can have their own room. They can set up their own room just as they want to and invite people there. So this is about the virtual art house, like the possibilities of like something that I think was beyond the ideas what I first thought about a year ago, or something that I think that was already like 10 years ago, really like the idea was there, but it wasn't possible. Now the technology has come to the point that we can do it. And so, yeah, for the community, you can go to the Culture Hub page. It's culturehub.fi. You can learn more about the community, and you can also become part of the community. There is information here about the Extra Live and how the Culture Hub has done it, but that's more about it. And then when we go back to the physical form, we have the Culture Center, Art House Turku, and here you can still see it. We are here. And we have also built here, at least in Finnish, we have built here the service shop. So this is about different scales, like going to the physical premises of the Art House Turku towards digital channels, toward international communities and building communities, towards the virtual environments that can be utilized to create something truly different from the physical life. Because also the space that we have here, the inner yard you're seeing here in the background is actually a digital twin of our actual premises. So that means that it's in real scale. It's made with industry standards. One of the other spaces there is also like an industrial scale digital twin of our main exhibition area. So we can use it as a design tool, but we can use it as a digital extension. But then we have created some rooms that are not existing because we couldn't build an infinite room inside the building, but we can do it in the virtual reality. So here is the basics of this. So I will stop sharing, and now I'm really open for questions. Hopefully there will be some.
Certainly, there will be. So we have 5 minutes approximately. So question to Ville or either one, Annet or Ville. So very inspiring because I was attending the opening of the physical art house in Turku just last fall. And at the same time, I got to know this digital art house project, and the space has been amazing. So thanks for sharing all this, what you have been doing. There we have Pia-Mari, please, a question.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, if we could see you, we would appreciate. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, okay. My camera is not brilliant at the moment, but if you can hear me, I'll basically thank you for the presentations. It's been really interesting. Regarding Ville, your presentation and the art house, it's kind of weird because I'm not very techie person at all, and all my directions are more towards the woodlands and moss and organics, etc., etc. But however, I have been having an idea of some kind of virtual platform for particularly art projects that are taking place like in the little villages and a bit like away from the cities. It's one thing to have the city thing kind of or more central happenings visible and accessible for people who live away from the centers. But the other is that there are also art things and cultural things worthwhile experiencing happening away from the cities and to make them more accessible for everybody and also internationally and to get into that platform where the conversations and the cultural exchange and people's linking up with each other and what is the networking and everything can happen more efficiently. So the question is, like, for instance, if I now have an idea or even several of some kind of project that could be made into a art exhibition of multiple different art forms, for instance, how do I find out what are the elements that I need to have digital, like in the digital format, like the frames, the structures that I need to create, the building blocks, so that you guys could then make that amazing art hub thing experience for people of it.
Okay, so the technical parts. Okay. Yeah, so our platform is really easy to have all kinds of elements from sound to video to any kind of digital images or 3D objects of any format. Then the like more advanced idea is that we can include entire Unity-made productions, and that means that we can have customized artworks that are have their own work user interfaces and everything included. So on that sense, something that is like basic digital format is really easy to put there, and then it's more about designing the idea what's there to experience. But where it goes truly into something that is in the virtual world more interesting is when the people have the user interaction with the artworks. So there can be, for example, some elements how you want to play around with the objects, for example. So we have capabilities to do the simple things really fast, and when we want to have something more customized, then it takes a lot of work, and then it also requires funding or the people to know what they're doing. That means that, for example, in our current event, we have about 15 different custom-made productions coming from the artists who are creating mainly artwork like natively on the virtual spaces and really customized like stuff.
Okay, so really, I suppose for myself as well, the first thing is to see what's on it, like when you open it on the 1st of June.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to approach it.
Yeah, to kind of get a better idea as to what are the things that are possible.
Yeah, and if you have an idea of something, the Culture Hub community is something that can be reached out for. We have different professionals. So if you are thinking, for example, some specific technical thing you require, we have the professionals and we can help you find them. That's also about the community and supporting each other. Of course, there is many of these people are working also in the tech and different formats. So they're also, of course, they're expecting not to do it free, but also to collaborate. So of course, the part of the funding is always there.
Yeah.
There was
Thanks.
Yeah, there was also in the chat a question by Alex. So how do we advertise this internationally? Well, we have like different forms of newsletters and collaborations with the organizations. We have pushed this out, and then we have the LinkedIn group, and Instagram as the main social platforms. I think trying to get the massive amounts of audience is not something that we feel is important. It's rather finding the right persons, the right audience, the right professionals who are most interesting. So basically that means that I want to find influencers. I want to find people who are someone who can do something about this in concrete forms. So I think in that terms, like we are doing the social media, but the audience we are trying to achieve is not the huge public. It's more finding the cutting edge experts on different cultural forms, and that helps also us to learn what are the best practices or what are the best experience that can be done in VR. And for that, it's I think mainly the channel is for that LinkedIn and collaborating there with different people directly. So that's one part of it, I think, but I'm not exclusive about it.
Thank you. There were, there are many topics. We can have one last question. I just wanted to comment a little bit, like how all your presentations they interacted, because Annet was talking about this. You're talking about this community creating a community that's for everyone, and then Annet was talking about the curators, like. That was under the title of The Broken Timeline, but online curating, that not everything can be controlled when you're doing it online. And then Anna was talking about the audience taking the exhibition in their own hands when you're producing a virtual exhibition, and like even trying things that you weren't assuming or planning when you were curating it. So it was very interesting how everything was connected. There was also another question from Alex in the chat, and to Annet, how do you select case studies for your research on the research side?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I didn't really bring up indeed. What we've been looking at primarily indeed are examples that move beyond the sort of standards in a way, that really focus on either using space in a different way. And particularly what I'm currently at least interested in is those that are already working within certain maybe even commercial environments, such as Instagram, for instance, or eBay. I found those really interesting as well. It's like, what does it mean to also focus on those platforms in a way that are already existing? What would it mean to start doing curation in there, doing exhibitions in those spaces as well? And on the other hand, I've always been really interested indeed what more artist-driven examples are exploring that sort of like virtual space that you can go in all kinds of directions, and from the really high end, like Ville and Anna mentioned, I think in a sense as well, to much more sort of very down to the sort of text-based examples that I found also quite interesting indeed, in what they already can give you as an experience. So it's pretty wide and far in many ways.
Yeah, we have moved very far from I wasn't going to mention the topic of COVID, but this is what has accelerated the development of the digital exhibitions and everything. But we have come very far from the 1st of May celebration online that I was spending in Madrid during COVID without a possibility of getting to Finland. And I very much appreciated it, but it was the first steps. And now the space, like Ville was mentioning, has been very, very fast Any other? There is in the chat, I am looking at. Thank you both from Alex. So, is anyone still one last chance? And otherwise, you can always get in touch with us and to Ville and Annet through us, and you can give comments and feedback. You have received a feedback link to your emails, and we very much appreciate all our speakers today. This has been a wonderful and even sunny afternoon in Finland. Finally, spring is arriving. Very inspiring, and many examples that at least I'm going to check and follow the links that you have given. So if not anything, stay tuned with the KUVATA webinars. We continue with these expert webinars. The following ones will be in Finnish, but we will continue with the Globe Art Point produced webinars in English also next fall. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
No more questions. Okay. Bye.